What does it mean to live more with less? I'm Katie Wells, and welcome to the Maximized Minimalist Podcast. If you found yourself caught up in the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood and want to rewrite the script, congratulations, you're in the right place. I'm here to be your guide and help you take back your motherhood and achieve a simpler, more joy-filled life. Cheers to being a maximized minimalist. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to the show. So thrilled to have you here. I feel like I say that with every guest. It's so authentic, but like you were like an idol. So I so appreciate you coming on the show. My listeners probably already, you're like a household name. So
that's so kind. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I don't know if I'm a household name, but I appreciate it.
I think you're just humble. Thanks for coming on the show. I was so excited to reconnect. I was on your show, right around the holidays. We had such a great conversation. And actually, there's a piece of it I keep kind of replaying in my head. Maybe we'll talk about it during the episode today, but it just really struck a chord with me. And I appreciated how you were just so authentic and shared something really vulnerable in that episode, just about like how identity drives behavior, right? And we were talking about from like a consumption pattern, but it was just like, it was very cool. So not surprised you have such a big following. So I am thrilled to have you on though, talking about spring cleaning and organizing and just creating systems that stick, which I know you are so great at coaching other women and families with, and just thrilled to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. I feel like this is one of my favorite things to talk about is like, how can we make it easier? Because it seems like it should be something we all just innately know. And yet, well, I know for myself, I found maintaining a house extremely hard.
Versus like trying to get it where you wanted, or like compared to that, or just in general?
Just like compared to the idea of like, this should be easy. My mom didn't seem to struggle. I don't know, like, why is adulting hard? Why can't I find my kids 2 matching shoes? And where's my keys? And why is the floor always sticky? It took me a while to like figure out why I was struggling and routines to make it easier. And now I can honestly say, like, I am a lazy person. My house is always clean and tidy, and it's not because I'm working hard. I kind of found these like cool little, I don't want to call them hacks because it's not. It's just, shortcuts and real routines that work.
This is the key. Okay. And I love that you said like the outcome or the result that so many people are striving for doesn't equate to like white knuckling and like hustling and grinding your way and adding more to your to-do list. But then it's like that might leave people wondering, well, what does that mean? Like, how do I simplify? What systems do I need? So for those who don't know you, the two that are maybe listening, you're well known for your Clutterbug organizing styles. And I want to take a second for you to break that down because I think that is so helpful for people. Can you explain what they are and how they can help my listeners maybe identify their organizing personality to help them create these routines and systems you're talking about that can simplify and help their homes?
Yeah, what I discovered probably like 15 years ago while I was trying to get myself organized, and then I was helping friends and family and eventually clients, I was like, organization is not one size fits all. And our idea of how things are supposed to be organized often is the opposite of how we actually organize. So this is why things are always messy, because we're fighting our natural tendencies. So basically, it breaks down to how you naturally sort and how you naturally store your things, like without thinking about it, just your innate personality. So how you sort is, are you a really detailed person? Does your brain work in categories? Are you like kind of a perfectionist? You know what I mean? Yeah. You want things done right. And your brain naturally is something that breaks things down into lots of little pieces. Or are you more of a big picture thinker? So less detailed. You need just quick, easy, fast, broad categories because you want to put it away fast. Whereas a detailed person wants to find it fast and they don't mind taking time to put things away in a little bit more detail. So I'm rambling. Detailed or non-detailed. And then the other side is visual versus hidden. There are a lot of people who truly it's out of sight, out of mind. And subconsciously, they want to see their everyday important things. And then there are other people who get really stressed by seeing a lot of visual things. So they're overstimulated and they want to hide everything, even if they use it every day. And obviously, this is a spectrum, both of these things. But most people will fall to one side or the other. And knowing this about yourself and that combination, I call them Clutterbug styles, and I gave them like little bug names. But none of that really matters as much as like truly having the self-awareness to realize how you're naturally putting your stuff down and how you naturally are looking to find it. And then you can set up systems that adapt and catch your clutter so it stays tidy all the time.
So what does this look like? You've got a family, I've got a family, so many of my listeners. So let's just say we identify like, I'm the detailed one. My husband's the non-detailed one. I have a kid who gets overwhelmed by seeing all the stuff. And then I have another kid who So what happens when you have a like real life, like you said, the floors are sticky. Where's the shoe? Like, what does that look like on a, in a family system? Does it just fall on compromise and like trying to make sure everyone? Oh, okay.
But you know what? But there's like a golden rule. I call it the golden clutterbug rule. So a person who's really, really visual, but they need laid back, non-detailed system. That's a butterfly. Almost all small children are butterflies. You'll start to see their kind of organizing personality come out around the age of 10. Maybe you'll see, and sometimes it's not till they're an adult, the teens, but butterflies. So know that most kids are butterflies. A ladybug is a laid back, non-detailed person who hides their stuff. They don't want to see it. So butterflies see it, ladybugs hide it. Cricket, super detailed. Perfectionist, don't want to see their stuff. And bee, super perfectionists want to see their stuff. They're really, really visual. My point is, when you're combining all of these styles together, we generally default to a butterfly system. And that means visual and super easy, non-detailed. Now, people always hate this and they cringe when I say this, but hear me out. It's easier for a person who is very detailed to relax their system than it is to expect a person who doesn't think in categories and detail to try to adapt to a very detailed system. And also, a visual person truly forgets if they can't see. So even though we want to hide everything, because I'm a ladybug, I don't want to see nothing, it's easier for me to see the important stuff than it is for another person to like try to have to remember. So here's the compromise that I love the most. And that is big bins, big categories, but go ahead and grab a solid so you don't see it and label it. That's the compromise to make things visual enough. And it's always hooks over hangers. It's always like take the closet doors off or install like mudroom in your entranceway. Don't try to expect your family to use a closet because it's just not going to happen without you nagging all the time. So the compromise, the golden rule is we always default to the butterfly in the home or the non-detailed visual system.
So walk me through what this might look like when, I know we'll talk about cleaning here in a minute, but from like an organizing standpoint, entryway, right? It's the big transition area, typical pain point when it comes to clutter and expected mess in a lot of people's homes for that reason. In, out, dumping grounds. So you said hooks over hangers. So if they have a closet down the hallway that they've been nagging their family to put the shoes away, hang your coat up, and it's not working, maybe we just think outside the box a little bit and say, hey, let's still use that for some storage space, maybe for some items that you don't need every day that you want nearby, but then let's try and make a simpler, environmental setup right when you walk in that might be more fruitful for your family to actually follow through on organizing and putting things away that you want them to do. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that is totally exactly it. And if you have some family members that are walking down the hall and putting their coat and shoes there, then cool, they can continue to do that. But for the people who are dropping it at the door, let's not punish and shame them for organizing differently. They can have a system with hooks right at the door. And honestly, the best butterfly shoe system is a big basket where they kick their shoes into.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of hiding it, right? But people who are detailed are like, I don't want my shoes all in a big heap and everything covered. That sounds horrible. Cool. Then you use a system down the hall with a shoe rack. But we adapt for each person who's living in the house so that everything has a home that's really easy for them to use.
What I'm also hearing is, and I talk about this a lot too, is we're humans and our brains like habits, right? Because we don't have to think. It's one less thing to think about. And I totally agree with, instead of trying to get non-ladybugs to rise to the occasion and think differently and be super detailed on stuff they probably don't care about, might not ever care about how their shoes are stored, even when they're an adult, being able to come down to where they are, compromise through the means of what you said, but also I think big picture that's important to make like said here is that we're reducing friction points when we are setting up and designing an environment that supports what we want our family to do in the first place. And there is something to be said about, yes, a lot of us have heard like, find a home for everything. And I used to roll my eyes at that advice, like, ooh, find a home for everything. Part of it was because I had clutter to get rid of, right? And it seems too oversimplified, but it's a piece to the puzzle. Maybe not all of it is like the design aspects, hooks, like sometimes our entryways become dumping grounds because there's too much. We need to declutter, but like maybe your kid can't reach a 6-foot hook and we lower the hook down to 3 foot and then voila, now your kiddo is hanging their coat. Just really simple things like that can create this really awesome domino effect. And I found that just, again, little tweaks in environmental setup can support what we want all of us to be doing to begin with, including myself, because I'm the biggest offender when it comes to not putting my shoes where they live. I just kick them off.
Same. I'm like that too. And what I really want to say, there are people who are, I call them bees and crickets, like detailed people who will be like, well, my family's just not caring about me. This is disrespect. Like, why can't they take a few minutes to just walk it down the hall or open the closet door? That's just rude. And what I'm saying is that's not what this is about at all. A non-detailed brain literally isn't even thinking about it. It isn't a thought that comes into their head of how am I going to put this away? Their brain's already moved on to something else. They're walking in the door. It's complete muscle memory here. So to try to expect someone to think like you is just a recipe for disaster and resentment, and everyone's upset and no one wins. So we adapt the home with like a basket where they naturally kick their shoes off anyways. Now they're kicking it into the basket. It suddenly solves the problem and nobody's upset and no one's nagging and no one feels disrespected.
You hit something important there is like we tend to personalize every little mess around the house, especially those of us. And I used to struggle with this. I'm getting better, but it's like, it feels like an attack. Like I just spent X amount of minutes or hours cleaning the house and then you tromp in with your muddy shoes and I'm disrespected. And but if we're just like, hold on, like he was excited. He was showing me a cool rock he found on the ground. He wasn't thinking like, Mom, just clean the house, right? Just kind of zooming out sometimes and going like, okay, like hold on here.
Yeah. And also, if you have a spouse, like I have a spouse who will pile in certain places and I get really frustrated because I want to hide everything. But instead of like, that's so rude, why is he doing that? Looking at, okay, why is he piling there? And how can we adapt a system that works for his natural piling tendencies? And how can I, instead of it's my way or the highway, how can I make the home work for everyone? It's crazy banana pants. How honestly, like I have 3 teenagers. My house is always tidy all the time. I never nag. It's tidy all the time, but it doesn't look like you would probably expect traditional organization to look. It's literally just adapted for everyone who lives here.
Yeah. So 3 teenagers. And all right. So I have one more question before we talk about cleaning, if that's okay. Because I think so many of my listeners and myself, this is something I continually just try and notice and bring more curiosity to the table is so many moms and women tend to be the spearhead of decluttering, organizing, cleaning, like home CEO, home management, stuff manager, whatever you want to call it. And it's like, we want them to follow suit. Here's a checklist. Here's a bin. It's labeled. Like we're trying to support our family into being an active participant in the home, but it's like, they also need to notice. So getting our family to notice, and especially from a teenager perspective, what does that look like in your home? Is it just ongoing conversations you've had? Like, and what if they're just like naturally, they don't care? Like, what if they're just like, I get why you do it, Mom. Like, I know why you put the shoes there, but like, did you ever have a kid that was like, just didn't get it? Or was like, maybe it was not their shoes, but it was their room or their toys or something. And how did you handle that?
Absolutely. I have my oldest daughter is like a butterfly, so she doesn't organize anything like me. She's super visual. And one thing that I know really helped was validating their way. So instead of saying, you're not doing this and you're not, and why aren't you? It was, hey, I noticed like you organize this way and that's awesome. And I want to help you set up a system that works with you. You don't organize like me and that's okay. Let's together come up with a plan. So they're involved in the process. Instead of you saying, this is where your stuff goes, put it away or else, they're developing where their stuff goes. They're owning it. And there's like this sense of confidence when you are part of and you own the system, you're more likely to actually keep it up. So A really quick example is when I'm organizing toys for children with a client, the children, I'll give them a pack of like these labels, these picture labels. They'll cut them out. They'll pick the categories that they want. They'll attach them to the bins. Then they'll sort into the bins. And their parents are like, oh my gosh, they're picking up their toys. Why is this happening? I'm like, well, because this is their system. They now care about it. They are now invested. So if you involve your family in developing the system, like, hey, where do you think we should put the hooks for coats? That doesn't sound like a big deal, but it truly is, because now they're like feeling like heard.
Yes.
They're feeling part of the design of the home. And now their brain, when they're taking their coat off, they're like, this is where I picked to put my coat. And then therefore they're going to put it there subconsciously. It really, really does work.
I absolutely love that. I think for all the reasons you said, and that agency is such an important part. I mean, and they can feel that too when they're like 4 and 5. I mean, it's not like they don't gain that until they're doing laundry when they're older or whatever the case is. I've seen that self-confidence even develop from my kids being active participants versus like, hey, mommy added another thing to your checklist and I need you to do this, which I've totally been guilty of trying that route. It didn't work for me. They're like, what? Another thing to the checklist? You know, probably a whole other conversation. So great advice. I love that. When it comes to spring cleaning, so we're kind of shifting gears a little bit. I love your take on organizing and setting up systems based on our family's personalities, bringing them in. Spring cleaning. Where do you start? What's your take? What's your philosophy on spring cleaning or cleaning as a whole?
So again, it's knowing yourself. I am not a structured person. If you give me a schedule, I will immediately be like, you can't put me in a box and do not tell me what to do.
I'm the same way. Are you the youngest child? Are you the youngest child?
I'm like an only. I do feel like that comes with that non-detailed, non-structured brain. We are just, that's how we're wired. We're not big into details and structure where other people need it and crave it. So when it's trying to be forced on us in the past, that has always had negative consequences. Like we've not been able. So then we just naturally resist that. Even trying to tell ourselves what to do in a structured, detailed way. We're like, you're not the boss of me, myself. It's very weird. It's super odd.
Totally weird.
So what I find really helpful is turning spring cleaning into a game. We do need some sort of boundaries, but it's got to be like loosey-goosey boundaries. So I have this calendar that I made that has like little pictures of different things I have to do every day. And then during spring cleaning, I will literally just set an alarm for a time that works for me. And I'm a night owl. So right after dinner, 15 minutes, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, pick one. No pressure. Every day gets to be something, whatever I feel like, but I'm committing to doing one small thing. And that works with my brain and that works with my kids' brains too. So we used to do the popsicle sticks when they were little. They could pick a popsicle stick of what they did, and them getting to choose and pick and have freedom was a very effective tool. Because now it's like, okay, I've decided to do this. No one's telling me what to do. You're way more likely to actually be motivated to do that thing. So I need rules and boundaries in that I have to do something, but the freedom to pick what that something is.
Is this specifically for like your version of your spring cleaning? Kind of like we're putting some major effort over the next 2 weeks in spring cleaning.
Exactly.
That's what it looks like for you. As simple as like pick a task, 15 minutes. So you do a full month.
We do a full month. And so I just have like this calendar that says, but I don't stick to those days. It's like wash a couple windows today. And sometimes I'll be like, you know what? I'm feeling good because once you get started, I'll do all the windows. But also if I'm just doing 2, that's okay too. And giving myself that list of things that need to be done is super helpful. So I'm not going off into crazy pants land and like organizing, I don't know, photos from 1972 or something, because I will totally do that. It's like, no, chick, this is what has to be done. But in the moment, I have the freedom to pick what I feel like in that day. This really works for me, but this doesn't work for everyone. And so finding a system that resonates with you is key. And there are a billion different spring cleaning checklists. I'm like, try them all, man.
Yeah.
Try them all and find one that resonates with you, knowing that if you're struggling with one, it isn't that you're bad at this or this, it's just this one isn't your jam. Like, so try a different one.
What do you do when, I mean, personally, I hate cleaning toilets. I have a visceral, like I get angry. I never get angry really, but I'm like, oh, I'm mad because I'm cleaning a toilet. It's just always something I've disliked. Whereas like one of my kids doesn't mind it at all. So that was a conversation that came up. I'm like, hey, this is something I don't like to do and you don't like to do this, but I'm good at it. Like, what would it look like in that conversation? He's like, yeah, no problem. Like, I'll clean your, like, Andrew and I have our own restroom. He's like, I'll clean your bathroom toilet. And I'm like, dude, this is like the secret hack to life. Like just talking to your kids, using each other's strengths.
and like, taking ownership and you picking. You get to pick. Like, it's all about that, like, oh, okay. I don't have to be forced to do anything. I'm choosing to do something. And as soon as we make that thought of like, okay, I'm picking this, which is why the popsicle sticks work. Like the kid picks the chore, they're actually going to do it. Whereas if you tell someone to do something, then you're fighting an uphill battle.
So I'm curious because typically when we do our spring cleaning, it's all hands on deck and we'll have like a focus. And let's just say that's the kitchen, because I feel like that's definitely a place a lot of people tackle, like pantry, like we like wipe down the cupboards because we have white cupboards and they get grimy, back of the stove, greasy. So we kind of focus all four of us, our efforts in the kitchen. But if you're each picking, let's say you pick a kitchen, I don't know, wiping the baseboards in the kitchen, and then your daughter picks like bedroom windows, like do you find that because the efforts are spread out and it's like a quote unquote slower process that you don't feel as like invigorated as like after your 3-hour sprint through the kitchen with your family? Or do you feel like that's not motivating to you, or because it's a system that aligns with your brain and your personality, it still feels good? Do you know what I mean? Because that's what I think a lot of us love about that. Typical spring cleaning is the rush we get, just like when we declutter afterwards, like we feel lighter versus like 10 minutes here, 15 minutes there.
I'm going to be real honest. I feel like you're cleaning a lot deeper than I ever did and ever will. And ever 3 hours in the kitchen, that's crazy pants.
I will
Love
say,
bug, that's crazy pants.
Our stove, and even with the self-clean, it took me and my son just the other day, it took us an hour. And it was pretty nasty though. So it's good for like the next 10 years. It's probably, went a little long, as I probably do, but that was the biggest hang up. But maybe not, it's not 3 hours. Maybe it's an hour and a half in the kitchen or whatever versus 15 minutes, because sometimes our brain goes, what's the point? What's 10 minutes going to do? What's 2 windows going to do? So falling out of that trap, right? The all or nothing thinking.
Yeah, for me, that's the whole thing. I am not a person who wants to spend 3 hours on a Saturday cleaning. I just never will be that person, and my kids are not that people either. But if that works for you, then do that. This is the whole thing. Find what works for you. So I need to break things up into tiny little chunks, because sometimes I get the motivation to keep doing it and I'm like, we're motivated and we'll do it for longer. But a lot of the times it's a grind. And after 15, 20 minutes, we don't want to do it anymore. And so not forcing it when we don't feel like it means that we're more likely to come back to it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So we truly are a family that we deep clean the house probably 4 times a year, but it doesn't feel like a huge, insane thing because it never gets super gross.
Yeah.
Because we do it so consistently. So whatever works for you. If you're deep cleaning 3 hours in the kitchen every spring, that's awesome. If you're feeling like, yes, look at it, it's amazing, then do that. But if the idea of that is like, ooh, I'm going to wait 4 years because that sounds horrible, then try the 15-minute approach. It's all about adapting to what works for you, but having that list of things that needs to get done is crucial because sometimes otherwise those things can get overlooked. So one of the things that gets overlooked the most is the front of the cabinets and the kick plates. So we do that every month.
And it's just built into your routine. Yep. And I'd imagine it takes 10 minutes or less, depending on
not even. Exactly. Absolutely. Because we do it once a month and it's built into our once a month home maintenance schedule. But it isn't like a certain day. It's just like within this month, I got to do this. I can't neglect this. So spring cleaning for us looks more like windows, dusting the walls, baseboards, and deep cleaning the appliances for sure. But again, doing it 4 times a year, so it never gets real crazy.
Yeah, I did once every 10 years for the inside of my oven. So I guess you pay the price at some point.
You do. But like, if that works for you, that's awesome. Like if you were like, don't, then good. Yes.
Which is funny because, people think, oh, Katie, you've got it all figured out. Your home's perfect. I never say this, but we assume when we follow someone, hey, listen, we all have our strengths. Cleaning the inside of my oven, I'll wait. So, okay, so let's just say, so you're working as a team, what I'm gathering, you've got these systems in place, choose your popsicle sticks, and your, the ages now, it's just like choose your task, right? How do you make sure that all these things are getting done? Is there a visual checklist that someone in your family might check off what they did versus before you know it, something accumulates and you're like feeling behind and it's going to take more time? How do you avoid that from happening?
Yeah. So I have a checklist. It's a picture checklist and it has like 30 tasks that have to be done when it comes to spring cleaning. And we also have a checklist for our weekly cleaning. And then we have a checklist for our monthly cleaning. And that's kind of it. And we're at the point now, I feel like it's become kind of a habit where we don't have to check the list. But in the beginning, it was a grind. I'm not going to lie. I had to set reminders. I had to leave it out on the counter or on the side of the fridge so I could see it and remember. But eventually it becomes muscle memory and you no longer need those checklists. It's just built into your day, like brushing your teeth. But imagine if you had never brushed your teeth in the morning and then you're like, okay, it would take work to establish that habit.
So how did you meet any resistance you might have experienced with your kiddos on certain tasks? Even if they're like, hey, I'm picking wipe down the front of the cabinets, like because they picked it, I'm assuming again, like you said, less resistance, but like maybe not resistance, but like the audible complaining or the sighs or like, oh, I'd rather be doing something else. Like, did you just, I'm curious, like kind of what was your philosophy on your response to that?
So I guess like I'm mean mom, but here's the thing. When we clean together and no one's allowed to have electronics until it's done. So also we're like, oh, we only got to do this for half an hour. I'm going to set the timer right now. No one's allowed to have electronics till it's done. We're doing it as a team. On your mark, get set, go. And when my kids were really little, we used to dress up as superheroes and fight the germs. So we had capes and stuff. I know. My kids were really little. We had a bunch of capes and my son had a Spider-Man costume. And so it was a thing. I made it into a thing. I would get dressed like a superhero too. And we would have the same time that we would do it. It's okay. Okay, we're setting a timer. My husband had like this Captain America, like built-in muscle suit. It was ridiculous. I know it's ridiculous. We'd set a timer for half an hour and we'd fight the germs. And just clean, and everybody would take, and they would not do a great job. Let's be real. Yeah. Okay. My kids would not do a great job, but I did not care. And my house is not perfect. If you really look, I'm sure you'll find dirt and goo, but it doesn't feel like a burden or a chore anymore.
Yeah. And what a blessing, right? Think about all the energy and time and resources that you can put into the things that matter, right? Your family, your passions, your business, your students. It's just, it's beyond. I absolutely love that. So organizing tools you recommend? I know you talked about like having a visual checklist can be helpful for getting something started, creating a habit. Like when it comes to spring cleaning or organizing in general, what do you recommend or what's a great starting point?
Yeah. So one of the best things I ever did was I realized very early on that not only me, but my rest of my family didn't actually know if I say clean the bathroom, they didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So what I did was I wrote down, like, you have to wipe the top of the toilet, wipe the base of the toilet, wipe the seat. You have to do the mirrors. You have to do the countertops. You have to spray inside the shower. We don't scrub the shower. We just and then rinse it off. Not the point. I literally wrote down everything that was involved in that task. I printed it. I laminated it. I hole punched it and I attached it with a rubber band to the cleaning product, to the bottle. And so it's like, what? It's obvious. So now, and then we have this little portable I call it a tidy tote. It's our cleaning caddy that has everything you need inside. No excuses. And then when my kids go to clean the bathroom, they've got this list of all the things they need to know to do. So that was really helpful for my husband too. Okay. Not that I'm going to throw him under the bus, but you know what I mean? Like, I feel like it was sort of like, well, what does this even look like? And sometimes it feels like, I guess it's just picking up the garbage and the clutter, but not understanding how to actually clean and what they had to look for. So this checklist has been extremely helpful. When the product is empty, I just take the rubber band off and I put it on the new cleaner for the spaces. So yeah, every room has a different cleaner for that room with a different checklist on it.
Oh, see, that's brilliant. So I'm like, how can I do this? I use one of those. I use aqueous ozone. Have you heard of these? It's like, it purifies the water as it comes out and then you let it sit on your counters for like 30 seconds and it sanitizes. So I use it for you can use it for cleaning produce. I use it in my kitchen a lot. I obviously not spraying it on wood things, but we use it we kind of have that one that we take all over the house and use for like the bathroom. So I'm like, how can I do this? But I think this is, and it might just come down to like, hey, for the sake of helping get my kids like to learn, just get another bottle of some other healthy option. I think that is absolutely brilliant. And my mind is blown. It's so simple, but it's so brilliant. And I think the best things are always so simple and it's easier. And because my kids have been great, we have their similar system to you is like 10 minutes here in the bathroom, but then they often forget like what does done look like. Mm-hmm. And I'll often say, you're done when X, Y, and Z. But sometimes I get so focused on that I'm skipping over reteaching them the different steps involved. Like you said, the top of the toilet, the rim of the toilet, you got to lift it up. You got to do the baseboards. So having that all there to build
and if
that
you don't want to put it on your cleaner, you can like put it on the back of the bathroom door, or you can just be like, okay, you're in charge of the bathroom. That's the popsicle stick you picked. Yeah. Here's your checklist. Yeah. Go clean it. So it's kind of like a bunch kept in your tidy tote or whatever you call. I don't know. So I use a tidy tote, but it's like that little like
alliteration. Yes.
Caddy thing. Super, super helpful to understand exactly what it looks like. And so there's no guessing.
No guessing. And like you said, the tools are there. We have 2 totes as well, one in each bathroom. And I was just like, I need to keep it simple. I need my kids to have the tools they need, right? Because it's frustrating when you're trying to do a job, you can't locate what you need. But I think adding that little checklist that is so, so beneficial. And gosh, I'm like thinking of all the different aspects. And like you said, posting it on the wall could be, or behind the bathroom door is good enough.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so good.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy, man.
That's my saying. Are we the same person? What's happening?
I love it.
So you said it was helpful for your kids, the little checklist, and also your partner. Did you ever experience resistance from like him when it comes to stuff management, organizing, cleaning, and like other than that, if you did, what are some other ways that you help kind of onboard him into being an active participant?
Listen, you are not going to like what I'm going to say. My husband, have you ever heard of Gretchen Rubin's The 4 Tendencies?
Yes.
Yes. So my husband is what is called a rebel, which means he does not motivate himself and also other people. Like he's not motivated by internal or external expectations. In fact, if I say to him, hey, I need you to do this, he will immediately, his hackles will go up and he won't want to. It's
a true rebel without a cause.
Oh, yeah, Lord, yeah. I had to learn some tricks up in here to get that guy to help out. So I feel like every relationship is different. But for me, giving my husband a checklist, telling him what I want him to do is not helpful. It is a recipe for resentment and a fight, and it's just not worth it. So I need him to make him think it's his idea. And I need to kind of be a little, you're not going to like this. No one's going to like this, but whatever, it works. Okay. I need to be a little bit manipulative in this. So here's what it would look like. Oh, I'm really stressed. I have so much spring cleaning to do. I want to get the kids involved. I want the whole family to do it. This is all the things I'd like to do. Do you have any ideas to help get the family on board? How can I make this more fun? Do you have ideas of how we can do this in a short amount of time? And as soon as he's like the hero coming in to save me, I'm the damsel in distress. He's taking ownership of it now, even though it's my idea. He's helping to delegate the tasks. He's now more involved in the whole process because he's helping save me. And I know that feels very anti-feminist, and I know it's gross, and I know it's manipulation, but he doesn't know it's manipulation. So whatever. You do what you can.
Everyone's happy in the end. Okay, so this is a great example for like a short-term project, right? Like spring cleaning. Hey, here's my idea. And what a great idea, my lovely husband. We're going to do this. Great, thank you. Here's what we're all going to do. Yeah. But on a day-to-day basis, picking up your socks, putting your laundry away. I mean, what's the code? What's the hack? Come on.
It's worse, my friend. It's worse. You're not even, I know. Hold on to your hats. Okay, listen, I used to be so mad because my husband sucks. Okay, he doesn't want to do anything. He sucks. Okay, so you're just not going to like it, but I'm going to tell you what I do. I call it the cookie method on daily things. It's called the cookie method. So I look at things that Joe was doing every now and then, and I would praise. So my husband would make dinner and I would be like, oh, you're so much of a better cook than I am. You are so good at this. This is like your talent. You are such you're so better at this than me. Oh my gosh, you should just make dinner every day because you're amazing at this. And guess what? Now he makes dinner 90% of the time. Praise the things that he does do and let him take ownership for that.
Yeah.
He also, I was like, you're so much better at dealing with like the kids' pickups and running the kids around and taking them to sporting. Your brain just works at that better than me. I love that you can take that and roll with that because you're gifted at that. Now my kid, he takes the kids to everything. He is the chauffeur, not me. So yes, sometimes I still have to put his dishes in the dishwasher and I gotta, put away his laundry because that isn't his strength.
Mm-hmm.
But I have completely given him ownership of other things through praise that he just owns and does. And so it feels a lot more fair now. Does that make sense? So
yes,
I have to eat some humble pie up in here too. And I wish he did other things, but he takes a lot off my plate of things I used to do. And he doesn't even really realize he's doing it. And he's doing it because I made him feel really good about that contribution. And someone would say, like, he's not making me feel good about my contribution. He's not praising me for doing the laundry. Listen, at the end of the day, I just want him to do stuff. So I know it feels manipulative and I'm not trying to give advice. I'm just saying what worked for me is the cookie method.
I would use that. I would just say intentional. And here's the thing. I'm sure you could be like, hey, do you know all these years I've been saying this? I mean it. Yes, it's 99% authentic or whatever, but it's also so that I get what I want. Like I said, everyone's happy and we're not like therapists. We're just sharing what works. But I will tell you, I really appreciate your honesty because I feel like so many people in certain spaces are like, oh yes, here's the 4-step framework for getting your husband and your kids to do all these things, and like go from, I don't know. It's just like kind of over, like, what? Come on. So I appreciate you just sharing what works for you. I mean,
also like I was so resentful for a really long time, feeling like my spouse and family didn't help. And I went to therapy over it. And I'm like, is this weird that I want to divorce my husband because the dude won't vacuum? Like, what is happening here? I had to do a lot of work on me and change my mindset and really start noticing what he was actually doing, because there was things that he was doing that I didn't even know were a thing. And so I don't know if you've ever heard of something called fair play.
Yes.
It was a very effective tool for me. It's a list of 100 things and then checking off who does what. And when I really looked at it, it was almost 50-50. And yet I was so focused on the things he wasn't doing that I couldn't even see the things he was. And so my relationship is in a really good place now because I'm like, he's great at that. That's his thing. I'm great at that. This is my thing. Instead of trying to make everything fair and 50-50.
Yeah.
That just didn't work for my family.
Yeah. That's such a great point. And I appreciate you saying it did take doing some internal work and reflection on your side of things. And you beat me to the punch because I was thinking as you were speaking, like I think the best marriage advice I was ever given was that marriage is not always 50-50. And the advice at the time was specifically to like, not necessarily tasks like we're talking about, but like the mental and emotional support. They're like, hey, Andrew's going to be going through seasons where it's like, you're doing the tasks and you're doing the emotional support and you're doing, and then it's like, right now it's the opposite. So it's like 70-30. And it's like, I think accepting that versus being sold the idea that needs to be 50-50. But I think, wow, we do this to ourselves. We do this to our kids and our partners. We focus on all the things they're not doing. And I totally agree that the second we put intention into finding things, whether it's through the fair play checklist or just noticing the things they're doing. Hey, bud, you put your shoes away right when you got home. I just really appreciate that. Boom. All of a sudden, my heart, like as I said that, I feel lighter in my heart. I'm like, I feel so good. And my kid feels good,
And guess what? He's going to associate putting his shoes away with feeling good. So now you won't have to nag anymore. That's what I call the cookie method. It's praise, praise, praise. And then subconsciously, everyone's doing it because it feels good.
So giving ownership, tuning into strengths that our kids or our partners have, and understanding that like 50-50 in our family doesn't have to look like it looks in maybe this influencer's family where she says, here's what I do for laundry. And my kid does the load on this day and my husband puts his stuff away. So I think we compare and think, well, my husband should do that, or my kid, how to get my kids. So I agree. And it really ties back to what we started about in the beginning is making it customizable to you and your personality traits versus going, well, it works for her and her family, so I need to kind of force it to work for me, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That's a beautiful thing. So spring cleaning, organizing, any other tips? And, as we look past the springtime, what does maintenance look like for you? Are you still, I know you said your month-long kind of 15-minute a day tasks is your spring cleaning, but is that is there a simplified version for maintenance?
Yeah, the thing that changed my life was two things. One, I had a 15-minute nightly tidy up that everyone does.
Yes.
So after dinner, we're not allowed to leave and go do our own thing until we've done a 15-minute tidy up. And that means picking up in the living rooms, putting things away that are left out, cleaning the kitchen. Sometimes if we have extra time, it involves wiping the bathroom counters. It's all 5 of us on your market set go, 15 minutes. No matter what. That was so insanely life-changing. And the other thing that I did, especially because I was a very naturally messy person, was I set alarms to go off for 5-minute tidy-ups, just 3 a day. And that was because I would brush my hair and leave my brush out. I would brush my teeth and leave it out. I would make a sandwich and leave the bread and the meat and everything out. That's just my thing. So having this little alarm that reminded everyone, okay, on your market set go, 5 minutes, look around, tidy up, put things away throughout the day, trained myself and my family to be tidy people. Because muscle memory, if every time that alarm goes off, you then put the brush in the drawer, now you're done brushing your hair without realizing it, you're going to put it in the drawer. If twice a day your kids are picking up the toy and putting it in the bin because the alarm went off, eventually now they're done playing with the toy, they're going to put it in the bin without the alarm. Mm-hmm. So we now no longer need those alarms because we've trained ourselves to pick up after ourselves. That took time, that took effort, but man, is it worth it.
Yeah. And it's a life skill, right? It's a life skill that we're building. And like you said, you can use some of these things like visual checklists and alarms to help create and instill that habit. But as parents, I think sometimes we often forget too, we have to teach and model it because we just want to, I thought about this years ago. I was like, I don't know that. And again, not knocking my parents, but it was just go clean your room. And I was like, what?
I just shoved everything under the bed.
Same.
Because that's what I thought cleaning was.
Once I started getting allowance, I started paying my older sister, she's 6 years older, to clean my room for me. I was overwhelmed by it because I wasn't actually taught. So I think sometimes when I say that, people are like, oh, Katie, I've never taught my kids what you're talking about. I call it a reset. I tell them to do a reset or clean the room or clean the bathroom. But what does that look like? I haven't even taught them, right? And so I think that can be profound, but all the things you're saying, building this consistency over time. And I love how you brought in a hard stop, hard boundary. This is what we do as a family now after dinner. And it's not some 18-page checklist that you're going from 0 to 100, which I feel I think we're oversold as busy moms and families. Oh, here's it's too much. But instead going, hey, our starting point is a 15-minute tidy up or reset at the end of the day. No one can get on their phones until after, right? It's just, like you said, life changing. And you don't necessarily think it will be at the time, but it is.
It's crazy. I have an 18-year-old now. She comes home from work at 11 and I hear dishes dingling when she's emptying and loading the dishwasher without being told. I'm like, what? Whose world in what crazy pants thing? And my son, our alarms used to be, they'd come home from school and then at 5, we do it. That's when the alarm would go off for the 5-minute tidy up. I see him just doing this without he's just it's before dinner and he's tidying up his room and he's tidying up his stuff because it's habit. It's habit.
And it's a skill that you've worked with him to develop, right? And like you said, it takes time and energy. And I feel so many of us parents, we're already exhausted. We don't want to teach our kids. We just want to tell them, clean the bedroom. But that's not the reality. And I think a lot of us, to your point with the personality, some of us are kind of born with more innate, maybe built-in skill levels, but those can always be, like any skill, it can always be improved over time. And that's what you're doing through these tidy ups and all the other things you talked about. And again, I think it's beautiful because it brings in the sustainability piece, the family agency piece. And my favorite thing that you said when we got started was hey, actually my home's pretty easy to maintain. If you look at it, you're going to find the goo. I see the same thing. You're going to find cat hair tumbleweeds in my house, but it's not this big, huge thing to maintain it. It's automatic. It's become a team effort and it's not always perfect, but I'm not white knuckling my way to get somewhere. So I just love everything you shared. You mentioned a few checklists you use, and I'd love to be able to help direct some of my listeners on where they can find more and learn more from you. And if those are accessible in some way, shape, or form for anyone listening who's like, oh, those sound like definitely some keystone things I would like to integrate.
Yeah, you can go to my website, clutterbug.com, and go to the printables tab at the top. And there is so many. I have like a spring cleaning pack, which has a bunch of different spring cleaning checklists in it. So you can pick which one you like the most. I also have a cleaning pack, which has a bunch of, again, different styles of cleaning checklists, because some people are weekend warriors. Some people are daily bursters. Some people are zone cleaners. So it gives you the option to like see all the different types of cleaning and kind of pick which resonates the most with you.
I love that. I'm so aligned with it's not one size fits all. And I think it gives us such freedom to know that we don't have to like radically change ourselves or become a ladybug or whatever in order to achieve the outcome of a simplified, cleaner, tidier, more organized home. And so I so appreciate that philosophy. And it's no surprise you've had, the following that you've grown, because it's spot on. One last question before we say goodbye. I ask all my guests is, what is actually kind of a twofold question. One thing in your home that you could declutter with little or no effort, what would it be? Or if it would be permanently decluttered, what is that one thing that you're like, oh, I just don't want to deal with that ever again? And the flip side of that coin is, what is one thing in your home you would never want to let go of or declutter?
Okay, I'm not going to say like super obvious things. So one thing that I could declutter and it's like meh is those kitchen gadgety type stuff. All the things, it's like the choppers and the magic peeler thingies. It's like, I got a knife and that's fine. I need one good paring knife. Okay. The rest is all just extra crap that's taken up space in the cabinets. And the thing that I couldn't live without, now this, obviously it's like memories and my family, blah. Let's get real here. Fine. That's all well and good. But the thing that changed my life is my robot vacuum. So honestly, listen to me. They have come down in prices. I run that thing like a maniac multiple times a day. And guess what? I never dust. You don't have to dust. Did you know like 80% of the dust on surfaces comes from the floor?
I didn't know that.
If you run a robot vacuum all the time, the thing is annoying. You just tune it out. You get used to it. It runs constantly. I never, ever, ever have to dust surfaces. Like very rarely do I have to dust surfaces, because the Roomba is like get a robot, man. That's all I got to say. I have 5. I am a psycho.
So, how many floors is your house?
3, but I have multiples in multiples. So they're like battling.
So they're working. They are working as a team too. Okay. So now I've seen the ones that are like dual mopping and vacuum. Any insight?
Yep. Love them. So the Robo Rock, I have 2 of those. They are mopping and vacuuming in one, but they will not mop your area rugs. They are worth every penny. The only thing is they eat cords. Whereas a Roomba has a sensor that won't eat cords. So you do have to kind of like bundle, tape up the cords if you have a Robo-Rock, but they vacuum and it's worth it. No, I have so many. I have a problem. If you talk about my strange addiction, robot vacuums, crazy person.
All right.
Googly eyes on. I named them. Okay. I have a problem. Best thing ever.
I went to a Christmas party this Christmas and someone used her Roomba. What did we do? We blew up some balloons and she taped knives on, which I don't know, hindsight probably wasn't. And like everyone had a color balloon. It was just like I was orange. And then we put it in a small area and let that thing go to town. And it was slicing and dicing. And then the last balloon standing is whoever won the prize. And I was like, how? And they named their vacuum too. I feel like that's not uncommon at all. And everyone I know who has one does swear by it. So
best thing you will ever buy. And it trains the whole family to pick up their crap off the floor because the vacuum will eat it. This honestly is a life hack. It's the best life hack.
So for those I don't have a dog. My cats certainly don't eat shoes and like cords, but I will tell you, I totally agree with that. Talk about built-in motivation. Like I need my homework. I need my crayons. I better pick them up before, I don't know, the Robo Rock comes and eats it up for lunch.
Yeah. Rosie, Rodrigo. There's a lot of R
Rosie,
names for all of my.
I'm from the Jetsons,
Yeah, totally.
We all remember Rosie. This is our Rosie. Like, hello. They're not cooking for us yet, but soon. Who knows?
And the prices have come down. I'm just saying, treat yourself.
Oh, Cass, it was so good to hang out with you today, and absolutely loved so many things. I have 3 pages of notes here, and appreciate you taking the time to come in the share in the community here, and hope to have you back. And thanks so much for all your insight.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll see you soon.
Thanks.